There are a few expensive projects that I want to get done today in Costanoa County, and that's going to require a significant amount of money. So off camera, I did a little bit of simulating. My goal was to get around $400,000 to $500,000, but I ended up with $600,000, and that's because I reached the big town milestone, so that was helpful. I've also left the garbage facility on emptying and also raised its budget to 150% to try to clear some of that garbage. As you can see, I'm still getting some garbage piling up here as well as at the groundwater pumping station, and I believe the power plant as well. So one of the things I actually want to do now is, now that I've cleared quite a bit, I want to first stop emptying to see if that will then clear some of these areas over here. As for the projects that I want to get done today, one of them is placing down the Rock Musician Mansion, so getting our first signature building into the build. And that'll be in a new neighborhood that's going to be out on a peninsula just over here. This plot of land has been open for quite a while, so I'm going to place it there. I know it's kind of in the path of that bridge in the future, but I feel like that's something that we can take care of later. That's going to require bringing probably this road over here and teeing it into the Embarcadero. It's going to be a little bit of grading, but I'm going to try not to bring out this area right here into the water. I'm not going to try to fill it in if I can avoid it. Another thing I want to do is over in this area, the grid is starting to look a little bit odd. So I just want to expand a little bit so that I have these roads kind of going out towards this area over here. And you can see the topography is starting to force my hand a little bit. So basically this road is going to go out this way, and I think it's going to kind of cross this hill right here and continue on that way in the future. And then one of these roads right here will also go this way. And then the Embarcadero, I'm just going to continue on its route around the bay here. And then I also want to expand the grid over in the farms area over here, because I've got this area right here that's just kind of empty, and then some of this space as well. So I kind of want to see what I can do there. There's a couple of buildings that I want to place, like the road maintenance building for one, and then if I have the money, I also kind of want to place a bus depot so that I can get transportation started. And the education in Costanoa right now is lacking, particularly for elementary schools. So I want to make sure I get a pretty sizable elementary school in, and this is a great place for that because it's relatively flat, and I can place down a small elementary school with a couple of extensions. And then I also want to get some parks in just near the school, as well as a few homes. So I'll go ahead and get started over on the peninsula over here with our new neighborhood and the road, Willow Street, that's going to come over here and tee into the Embarcadero. So I'll start with that actually, just to get that out of the way. So I did my best to kind of minimize the grading that I had to do to get across this hill right here. I might even just do a little bit more right there to bring that up a little bit closer. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I did the least amount of grading possible to get this road over. And it wasn't really that much. It was pretty much just like expanding on this one contour line. So I think it works out pretty well. And it just allows for like a circulation pattern this way, which is helpful. And then if I turn my attention here, I can see that I don't actually own like this whole peninsula, but I think that'll be okay. And maybe I'll even check how much it would cost to just buy that. And it's pretty cheap because it's mostly water. So I'm just going to do that to make it easier on myself. What I want to do is I want to extend just one road out probably. So this will be kind of like a cul-de-sac neighborhood. And I want it to be not really like a rigid grid. So I'll probably just come out maybe to there straight, but then I want to have it curve so that the people on the ends of these roads aren't looking directly down a road at this road here. They've kind of, got an angle here, so they're looking mostly at other homes. And then I want to do the same here, but this side is going to be even more like it'll have less visibility back to this road, which is what I'm going for. Then on the ends of these streets right here, I'm going to actually go with some medium ones, because if you place down the medium roundabouts versus the small roundabouts, you get these larger lot sizes, and that's what I'm actually going for. So if you put down the big ones, it looks a little bit odd, but I think medium is a good middle ground, probably why they're called medium. And then this is where I want to place that rock star mansion, rock musician mansion. And I want to place it right about here. So I want to be able to zone as much as possible. And that's probably gonna, like, I'm gonna have to forego some of the zoning for sure. And it's a bit of a tricky one to get in because I want to make sure at a minimum I can get at least one house there and then one house there. And let me make sure I'm connected in. Yep, and it looks like we are. So then the other homes that I want to place here are all going to be this NA low density residential. So I'll just put that in manually. And with those homes in, I've been thinking about what I should be placing in this area right here. I'm either going to place another small cul-de-sac right here, and then maybe like a commercial area here. But I think realistically, I probably just want to place residential, and I'd want that to front on this street if at all possible. And I want to make sure I'm using up the land here as best as I can. So the other option is a park, and that'll increase the land value here. So that might be a good way to go. The kind of park that I'd exactly want, I'm not sure. I think tennis court would make sense in an area like this. And in order to do that, I think I'm gonna have to flatten out at least a little bit of this. And I think I want a dedicated alley actually for that. So I'll put that in here. Then I'll place down a small playground. And I think that is actually all I want to do in that particular space. And that allows me to then just do something like this, which will fix the zoning. And I can just place down two more of these, or a few more of these homes here. And I'll put that, I'll give a little bit of space between the tennis court. Pressing all sorts of the wrong buttons right now. And then what that allows me to do as well is just add in a small path right here to get over to it for these residents. And I'll probably just do some basic tree detailing here. Most of the detailing I think I want to do is actually to kind of shield from this road right here and make this feel a little bit more secluded. And then I want to maintain the views out to the bay here. So I'm just going to kind of fill up some empty space with some smaller trees. And I also want to pay a little bit of extra attention to the rock musician mansion. You can kind of see what I was doing here. I've laid out kind of a little bit of a plot here that I want to extend some of the surfaces to so that it looks a little bit more distinct from the rest of these. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I think that's about all I want to do in this area. I want to keep it pretty simple in terms of how many trees I'm putting in. I don't want to like overpopulate this specific area with trees so that we can maintain the views out these homes. And then over at the Rock Position Mansion, I just added a few extra props to kind of extend the property a little bit out this way. Added another pool because, you know, why not? I think doing things like that with these signature buildings is always kind of fun. It just makes it look a little bit more grand and it stands out a little bit more in this specific area. So now I want to turn my attention over to the extension of the grid by the hill, which is over in this area here. And what I'll do first is I'll just buy the tiles that I know I need to buy, which is going to be, I believe, at least of these three, because I need to bring this road through this one tile. And that's 127,000. So that's part of the reason I wanted to make sure I had enough money. And this is also going to cut into our monthly budget by 32,000, which I think is going to be fine for us. If we take a look. Yeah, I still have the overhead for that, but I'm going to have to keep an eye on this, especially as I start putting down some of those service buildings. But hopefully as I place some additional residential, this is not going to be as much of an issue. And now that we have those tiles, I want to go ahead and check the topo map to see kind of how things look. And I mentioned this before, but I want to follow this line up until I get to the top of this hill right here, or at least this area between these two hills, so that I can kind of cut through there and continue on this way. And then Embarcadero will just continue following the coast, and one of these roads here will follow in. And now that we are coming up against this hill here, I've started thinking about what road I want to continue on this way. And I don't think I want any more than just one road in between these two right here. The most obvious choice, and the one I think I will use, is this Primrose Street right here. And I'll probably just continue that on around here. And I want to bring it closer to Embarcadero than I do Willow Street because it's a little bit steeper up here. So it's going to be a little bit harder to build on smaller block sizes in this area, as opposed to down here, there's a little bit more to play with. So I'll try to get a little bit closer to the Embarcadero. There's another thing I know I have to do now, which is always unfortunate, but I have to keep changing this. Hopefully this is one of the last times, but it just keeps getting messed up as I build these roads and things continue on in weird ways. So that's fixed now. Yeah, so I'm going to bring this Primrose Street in here and then kind of fix the grid as makes sense with the topography. And this is what I've come up with for now. I think I want to leave it at this. I don't want to put too much in here right now because I was kind of checking it and the slopes are very steep to get from here to here. It's about 8%. That's definitely manageable, but I want to try to avoid those kinds of slopes for now if I can. And I'll probably just leave this area undeveloped right now. There's potential for putting maybe something in there at some point. It's going to be kind of a hard area to build with anyways. So I think I'm just going to leave it, and then I'll probably focus a couple blocks of housing like just right here, and I'll leave these areas open for now just in case I want to put some of those city service buildings in there. I'm also noticing like right here, there's some weird topography stuff going on. So I'm just going to fix that and then I'll zone this area up. And we unlocked this Baltar Pines building. I think it's actually a good time to place this. So I was just zoning in some row homes. So I think placing this in one of those areas is going to be good. And I was zoning in some of the French row homes as well as some of the North American. Then I kind of want to see how those look when they come in. And if it makes sense, I'll probably make it more uniform across this area right here at least. And then I'll place that Baltar Pines building. And I don't know how I feel about this French block right here. It just looks like kind of unnatural with the way that this all looks back here. And that's kind of one of my big gripes with these French buildings, is that they just kind of end up looking a little bit weird. Because they only spawn in like this one type of building. I could try to look at what French buildings are available, but the first thing I actually want to do is I want to look at this Baltar Pines house. And if you take a look at it, it looks like it kind of has a little bit of a corner piece vibe to it. So if I put it there and we take a look, Yeah, that definitely makes this particular corner look a little bit nicer. And then this side, while it's like still blank, putting some trees here will make this look nice, and it won't look as odd as like these French sides right here. So I definitely want to do that. And I think I just want to have the one French building right next door right here. And then what I'll do is I'll go back probably to maybe put in an EU home there and then see what that looks like. Because if that kind of looks a little bit more natural, I might put some of those in, like spruce them in there a little bit and just kind of mix it. If not, I probably will just go back to this American zoning and then just put it through the rest of here. And with that spawned in, I think it looks pretty good next to this French building, and I'll get a different angle on it. It's set back a little bit differently, but I think just actually like in general, I like the way these look on the ocean front a lot more than these. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna add a couple in here and leave one French building in and just see how that ends up looking. Otherwise, I'll just replace that one with European as well. Actually, I'm just gonna do that because I think it'll end up looking better. So we've got kind of like this unique corner right here with this one French building, and the rest are kind of like more normal EU buildings. And then over here, I think I'll just keep it like this for now. You can always change that later. And on the other side, I'll just put in some more regular low density homes. I also want to check, make sure we're not burning the city down. So over here, the landfill is full again, which means I do have to start emptying once again. And that thing's filling up very fast. So I'm gonna have to start thinking again about some sort of upgrade there. I don't know exactly what I can do to improve things, but there might be some boost to the processing speed I can do. But I don't want to spend the money on this right now because I have some other plans for the capital that we have. And since it looks like things are at least okay enough, I'm going to continue the zoning out here. And then I'm gonna, yeah, like I said, I'm going to leave this area more open. And while I was placing in that residential, I noticed there was a need for some parks in the area, so I put some of those down. But I also noticed that the city has expanded, and I have not yet expanded the city's limits. So I'm going to take care of that right now before I jump over to that other area. And over here, I want to extend the grid out in a pretty simple way. I want to follow the grid over here and not necessarily the changes to the grid that have happened right about here. And I played this a little bit beforehand because I wanted to kind of measure things out, but there's essentially a good, pretty large space for a school in kind of this area right here once I lay things out. So I'll go ahead and do that. that's what the grid looks like before I've placed anything down. So this area right here is where I'm planning to put the school. In this area, there is enough space to put a soccer field, and I have those unlocked. If we check the large sports parks, yeah, one of these soccer fields fits nicely into here, so I'll place one of those in. And then over in this area, I want to get a park maintenance building and then another farm right here. So yeah, I was not picky about how I was placing things here, and ultimately it's just kind of difficult to make things look too great, and I want it to be fairly dense right here because I want to make as good use of this land as I possibly can to get as many of these extension wings as I possibly can. Like, as you can see, we're already filling up pretty quickly, so I wanted that extra overhead. This I'm going to leave for now while I do the soccer field, because the soccer field, some of its alignment will determine where I put parking over in this area. And sometimes those paths can give you a little bit of trouble, but I was able to figure it out eventually. And as you can see, this is kind of what I meant by the alignment, is I wanted these two roads to line up. And I've kind of filled this area out with parking. To be honest, I don't love it. I may redo some of that at a later point, but it just fits nicely, like geometrically. So I've decided to roll with it. And then over in this area, I kind of want to round this whole area out as a dedicated like recreation facility. So I'll go ahead and put in a community pool and possibly some other sports related parks. And if I go back and look at the budget, we're now 20K in the red. So that's something I want to keep my eye on. That might involve me actually just lowering down this garbage budget because it's probably higher than it really needs to be. I definitely have the processing speed, so not too worried about that. So maybe if I go 110, will that put us? Yeah, so that at least puts us back in the green. And that's good enough for now. I don't know that I'll have enough money anymore for the park maintenance building. Let me check. It's 90K. So because I don't have the money yet, I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of zone in right here in this area. I don't want to spend too much money on things like landscaping. So I'll just zone in some residential, and that's one of our biggest demands. And then over here, probably put some offices. And we've got the film actor mansion right now. I think this one is one I'm going to want to put on a hillside just because I feel like that matches. I mean, it matches the aesthetic that you see in this picture, but also like the Hollywood and Beverly Hills aesthetic. So I won't be placing that today, but that's kind of where my mind goes immediately when I see that. So that's all I'll be zoning there for now. I want to turn my attention to right here where I want to put in a chicken farm, or livestock farm, which doesn't need to go on fertile ground, but I kind of went crazy with the fertile ground on this map. So there's definitely no shortage of it, which is making things a little bit harder because it's costing money in tile upkeep. But I will just put that right here, and hopefully that brings in maybe a little bit extra income. I don't know that it actually will, but I definitely will, but not enough to get that park maintenance building most likely. So and then this last area here, that's where I want that park maintenance building to go, which I'll need an extra 20,000 for. I think if I simulate for a bit, I should be able to get there. It might take a little bit, but I think that's better than taking out a loan for the moment. And it might put us actually a little bit further into the red, but that's, again, I think okay for now because we're overpaying for garbage. And I just know there's other services that can be notched down a little bit if I need to. And just while I was simulating, I did notice that these buildings popped in, and this one specifically, I don't really like the way that it is spawned in right now because of it just reduces a little bit more visibility than I think I would like. So I'm just gonna delete that and maybe put in a smaller one. I'll see what that looks like with just a smaller building. And wow, that's also a hugely busy intersection right here. A lot of walking going on. That's another thing. I think I mentioned that earlier, but bus service is looking to be ever more necessary because I think there's probably a lot of students walking over to this facility right here. And they're having to cross this highway, which is definitely not ideal. I'm definitely a little bit more okay with this specific building for two reasons. One is just that it's smaller, but I also really like the advertising that's on the side right here. I think that really fits in right next to this highway. Okay, so I might have been saying park maintenance building, but I actually meant the road maintenance depot, which is only 75,000. So I was already pretty much where I needed to be. The reason I figured that out is I was playing this earlier and I had put this road maintenance depot in here and it was this size. And then I tried to put the park maintenance depot in just now and it was way smaller. So I was able to catch that. Luckily, it saved me quite a bit of money. But yeah, that's going to go in right here because I don't want it fronting this street right here. And I definitely don't want it fronting Market Street. So I think that's a good enough place to put it. And if there's any upgrades, yeah, the upgrades don't expand the footprint of the building. So right over here, what I might actually do is place just a couple more offices. No, we don't really need many offices. So I'll place maybe a commercial building and I will put a few offices in. And let me check the grading because there's probably no reason not to. Yeah, there's not going to be a good reason to not bump those up actually. So let me quickly fix that. And as I'm doing a quick survey of the city right now in this aerial view, I'm noticing, I think this waiting for a hearse icon has been here for quite a while. Not exactly sure what that's about because I think if I look at the death care that I have available, I definitely have enough crematorium capacity. And if I go ahead and click on that building, there's 0 out of 10 vehicles in use. I'm not actually sure what's going on there. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. And the last thing that I want to do is just wrap up some of the places that I created earlier with a bit of detailing just to round them out a bit. So I'll start with this area right here where I placed the unique building, as well as over here with these row homes. I did see that these European buildings spawn in, and I think that looks about what I was going for with kind of a more unique corner on this side. with that light detailing done, I am noticing that these are still popping up right here. And I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet now and remove those buildings and have them build back in. I think there's just something wrong with the buildings themselves. So unfortunate, but I'm gonna do it now so that it's not gonna be even more painful later on. I think the same is probably gonna have to apply to these two buildings here because they just do not seem to clear. And I've had this problem before where service buildings, just for some reason, the garbage piles up there. It doesn't seem to be like too huge of an issue. Obviously they're at 50% efficiency, but as long as we're in the positive on the monthly balance, I'm not too worried about it. All in all, I am pretty pleased with where things are at right now. I think we're heading in a good direction, and I like how things are coming together overall in Costanoa. It's definitely starting to look like a pretty sizable city, and it's gonna need some of the services to go with that. I think in next episode, I'll probably focus on transit and specifically buses, and I may do some adjustment to some roads here and there, but really I just want to get the buses in because we saw earlier all the walking that was happening over at this intersection, I believe, to get to the school. In this episode, we expanded the residential a little bit and brought the grid out into some new areas, including over in this area where I placed the rock musician mansion. And then in this area here, I expanded the grid so that with the intention of eventually going around this hill right here and following the coastline, as well as placing in a unique building over here, which was the Baltar Pines row home. In this area right here, the land is a little bit cheaper and it's a little bit flatter. I placed a large school as well as some recreational facilities, and then some additional low density residential in this particular area, as well as the road maintenance building. The budget is still positive, but it's definitely on the brink right now. So I think before next episode, what I'm gonna have to do is probably simulate some more off camera and maybe do a little bit of adjustment to the budget to try to squeeze a bit more out of the city so that I have enough money to purchase something like the bus depot. But that will do it for this one. Again, I want to thank anyone who has watched these videos. I appreciate any feedback that has been given. And if there's anything that you want to see improved, please let me know. But with that, I will see you in the next one.